Okay, so we are in chapter 6, text 5 and 6. So both are talking about the mind, and the mind being friend or enemy. So one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is a friend of the conditioned soul and is enemy as well. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. This is one of my favorite verses that I keep quoting in most of my public speaking engagements, even business speaking engagements, because if one can get control over their mind, everything else falls in place. But without control over the mind, it can be very, very detrimental. So just to give you an example, um, let's look at the dictators of the world, right? They came into power because there was something that they did that was people liked it, or the army liked it, or something good they did that got them into power. But once they get into power, then what happens is they start thinking they're invincible, right? And eventually they fall, and they're killed, or they're uh, put in prison, or whatever else. Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi or any of those personalities, if we take them, it's very clear how you can see they thought they were practically like God. Just like Hiranyakashipu, if we go back to our Vedic civilization, Hiranyakashipu actually did tapasya for thousands of years to see Lord Brahma face to face. And when he met Lord Brahma face to face, he said, I want to be Amar. I want to be immortal. And Lord Brahma said, sorry, even I die, I cannot give you something I don't have. Only Lord Vishnu can give you. Now, Hiranyakashipu had an issue with Lord Vishnu because Lord Vishnu killed his demoniac brother, Hiranyaksha, as Varaha avatar. So he didn't want to do anything to do with Lord Vishnu. But Brahma said, hey, you want immortality? Only person who can give it to you is somebody who is immortal, and that is the Supreme Lord. So Hiranyakashipu said, no, thank you. What can you do for me? Brahma said, anything else you ask, I'll give it to you. So Hiranyakashipu said, fine, bless me that I cannot be killed on the ground, in the sky. I cannot be killed by any weapon. I cannot be killed by any human or animal, right, etc., etc. And he went through his conditions, and he thought, okay, I have done my conditional logic, and now I'm invincible. Haha, I tricked Lord Brahma. And of course, Lord Shigadev came and tricked Hiranyakashipu and killed him. So the point here is that no matter how smart we think, Krishna always is ahead of us. And it's the mind that makes us think that we are, even though we are tiny, makes us think we are invincible. In fact, Hiranyakashipu told his son, Prahlad, why are you worshipping that Vishnu? I am God. Look at me. All the devatas, they worship me. Everybody's under me. In this universe, there is nobody more powerful than me. And he was true. What he said was absolutely true. All these Chandra, Surya, Varuna, they would be his steps. He'd be walking on them, right? He was that powerful. In fact, if he raised his eyebrow a little bit, Surya would understand it's too hot, and sun would reduce its brightness just to make Hiranyakashipu appeased. So he was such a personality that he had won over heaven. He had conquered hellish planets. He had conquered practically the universe, except for one place called Sutala, where Varahadev didn't let him do anything. But the point is, he had practically conquered the entire universe. But he didn't realize that there is something beyond this universe. And the universe is a very tiny mustard seed in the entire creation. That's how it's described. That this universe, which has trillions of planets, this universe is a tiny mustard seed in creation, right? So he was thinking, I'm the master of this universe, so I must be God, and told his son, Prahlad, it's like, you should be worshiping me. There's nobody bigger than me. Hey, I'm God, right? And Prahlad said, no, thank you. I'll worship Lord Vishnu. And eventually, Hiranyakashipu wanted to kill his son. First child abuse case in history, right? We think we have issues. This Prahlad Maharaj's father wanted to kill him. Under the elephants, in the fire, threw from the mountain, just couldn't kill him. Lord Vishnu was always there to protect him. And Prahlad was always not even interested in worrying about it. He was always worshipping Lord Vishnu. So finally, Hiranyakashipu got a little tired, and he asked his son, where do you get your power from? He said, my dear demoniac father, the best of the demons, You and my strength comes from the same personality, Lord Vishnu. He is empowering you to be a demon, and he is empowering me to be a devotee. Same source. And Hiranyakashipu got mad. He was like, I just don't like to hear this. Can you show me this Vishnu? Is he here right now? He's like, oh, he's everywhere. He's everywhere in creation. Oh, where is he? He's like, he's everywhere. He's in that pillar. He's here. Like, and they're like, he's in this pillar. Like, yeah, he's in that pillar. And Hiranyakashipu goes and kicks that pillar and comes on Narasimhadev with big nails, right? Half human, half lion, and destroyed Hiranyakashipu. Actually played with him first. He said Tanu Vringam. Like, he played with him like a cat plays with a wasp, right? It's like, if you've seen Tom and Jerry, I'm sure you've seen, how they play. So cats have this nature, tigers also do that. Before killing, they like to play, they like to have a little fun, and then they kill it. So Darshikadev was playing with Hiranyakashipu, throwing him around, all this army of Hiranyakashipu that was attacking Narasimhadev. He was just, one go, he was killing army after army of demons like that. And Narasimhadev, when he got up, his hair, he was so huge. It is said that there were spacecrafts, flights. This is Satyuga, so millions of years ago. There were spacecrafts going by in the sky. And by Hiranyakashipu's or Narasimhadev's hair, those spacecrafts went out of orbit, right? He was so huge. So obviously, he destroyed Hiranyakashipu and finally established Prahlad Maharaj as the king and everything. But the point here is, just like Hiranyakashipu was a big demon, in Kali Yuga, we have small demons, And there are small people who win an election once and they think, now I'm invincible. Then they go for all kinds of things and they destroy their own career, right? And not just politicians, also babas and sadhus and, imams and Christian priests, all kinds of spiritual so-called gurus do the same thing. They end up thinking, oh, I must be God. Everybody's paying respects to me. Everybody's worshiping me. Actually, I didn't realize it. I'm God. You cheat people and then you actually believe in your own cheat. And then you think you're God. And then before you know, Ram Rahim happens or all of those kind of things. And the law comes after you. And you realize, oh God, I cannot even protect myself from the law. What kind of God am I? So that's the situation. So it's very easy for us to fall prey to the mind, whether we are entrepreneurs or a Baba or a politician or anybody, right? It is said that a beggar is proud of his penny. And that is very, very true. Whatever little bit we have, we feel proud of it because that's the mind's nature. Uncontrolled mind can make you think, illusory thoughts. And it is important that we empower that uncontrolled mind with knowledge. Because when you have knowledge, then you don't do stupid things. When you have knowledge, okay, this is poison and this is food. This is going to hurt me. This is going to help me. With knowledge, this doesn't go in the mouth. This goes in the mouth, right? Now, in situations where you don't have knowledge, what do? You borrow knowledge. You ask somebody who knows, right? And most of you have probably, this Chellam sir has become very popular, right? Since Family Man. So most of the people are like making memes about this person. This is my case for a long time. Anytime I'm in doubt, I call my mentor. And I have multiple mentors, but especially my spiritual mentor. Like, what should I do? Am I doing something wrong? This is happening and help me out. And he always has this 5-minute talk and I'm just back in action and ready to go, right? And that's very, very powerful to have somebody like that in your life. And I try my little bit of what I can do for some of my mentees. Of course, I'm nothing compared to my mentor, but little bit, right? So that's the whole point, is when we don't have certain experience, when we don't have a certain knowledge, we can borrow that knowledge from somebody who has that knowledge and who has it better than Lord Krishna himself. That's why we're studying the Bhagavad Gita, because with the understanding of Gita, with the understanding of Krishna as a personality, right, we will understand. Because many people say, I love God. Now, how do you love somebody you don't know, right? If I ask you, how does God look? What is God's name? What is God's address? What is his girlfriend's name, right? Of course, now we know. But before this, it was like, I'm not sure. Is it Kali? Is it Krishna? Is it Shiva? Is it Ganesh? Is it somebody? Is it Sai Baba? Right? We have confusion. We don't know who God is, right? We don't know what he eats, what he likes, what he does. And how can you love God if you don't know who he is? And that is why Krishna is saying, right, that Aham bija pradapitaha. I am your seed-giving father. I'm the seed-giving father of every living entity. Mama vamsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Every living entity is part and parcel of me. I am the source of every living entity. This is God. And what does it like to eat? Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prachati. If you offer me with love, little leaf, little flower, little water, little fruit, I'm very happy and satisfied. With love. That is the important part. If you offer me with love. So with this Bhagavad Gita, we're not only learning life's manual, how to live life, but also we're learning our Father, Krishna, who he is, how is he. And when we know how compassionate, how loving, how kind, how forgiving he is, we fall in love with him. Like, wow, I'm so glad Krishna is God and nobody else, right? What if there was a Hiranyakashipu who was God? Oh my God, what would we do? Thank God Krishna is God. He understands our shortcomings. Yoga kshemam vahamyaham. I carry what you lack and I sustain what you have. Krishna is promising. My devotee is never vanquished, right? Krishna is promising. So very, very supportive personality. This is how God is. So when we go through difficulty and we're like, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? This knowledge helps us control the mind, because people are panic attack. Why do people have panic attack? That is the mind going completely out of control. That's called panic attack. Depression, mind going out of control, right? Mind stays in control when there is knowledge. And when the knowledge is, Krishna has promised in the Bhagavad Gita, he will not let me down. His name is Achyuta. He will not let me down. I can be rest assured that Krishna will protect me. I'll do my 100%. Not like I'll be like, okay, Krishna will take care of everything else. No, I'll do my 100%, but I know for a fact Krishna will do his part. And however he does it, it's his own sweet way. He won't do it the way I want him to do it. I like to give this example of this lady that we met. She used to come every day praying for her son, that her son gets all A's in her subjects in college. And after the results came out, she was angry with Krishna. What happened? The pujari asked, and she said, my son got 9 A's and a B. How could he get 1 B? That's horrible. How could Krishna do this to me? Right? So Krishna might not act as your servant or waiter. He's not your order carrier. Right? He will help you, but he'll help you in a way that helps you. And that might not coincide with how you think will be helpful to you. Krishna knows better than you what is good for you. So Krishna will help you in a way that is actually holistically, long-term good for you, even if it might not look good at this time. Stock market, many people must have lost some money in the last few days. What's happening here, right? Sure, maybe it was a gambling tendency that was kicking in. It's time to rethink. Am I gambling or am I investing? Am I thoughtfully, with research, educatedly investing, or am I just going with the flow and playing with Krishna's wife, Lakshmi? Right? Money is Krishna's wife, right? Money is Lakshmi. Am I gambling with my life? Maybe Krishna said to tell me something here, right? And for those of us who are smart, probably made a little money when the stock market went down. I'm talking about stock market here. I'm talking about mind. I'm talking about how a controlled mind is your best friend and an uncontrolled mind is your worst enemy, right? So, for example, when there's a conflict situation, generally speaking, what happens is people go completely berserk, right? Oh my God, what's going to happen? So, oh my God, this overloads the mind. The mind cannot think. And so even though you're capable of finding a way out, you are not able to think because of the anxiety. So knowledge of who God is and what is your relationship with God takes down that anxiety. So in that situation, you'll be like, Krishna will take care of things. Let me think what I can do in this situation. Let me be very calm, right? And that's the sign of a devotee. In a very difficult situation, one is extremely calm, one is extremely composed, and thus one is able to think, act, and react to the situation in a way that aligns with the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. right? What's the point of reading this if this doesn't come in handy at the right time? So that's the whole point, is that we learn to control our mind and senses with the yoga process, right? Chapter 6 is all about Ashtanga yoga, controlling the mind, controlling the breath, controlling our senses and all of that. So through pranayam, we practice. Through chanting Hare Krishna, we practice controlling the mind, because the mind is always saying, let me look at the phone, let me look at Netflix, let me enjoy. It's always about, I want this. Once you get it, I want that. Once you get that, I want this. And it doesn't align with your life goals. You want to go forward, but the mind is telling me I should go here. Just like a monkey, right? Monkey goes from one fruit to another fruit, branch to branch, jumping and jumping, jumping and jumping. It doesn't have a purpose as such, right? Same way, if our mind, we let it be a monkey, guess what? We're doing a lot of work and it's going sideways. It's not moving forward. So to move forward, we need to tell the mind, hey, mind, you're going to do what I tell you to do. That means intelligence, which is above the mind is above the senses, and thus intelligence leads the mind controls the senses, and you're able to do what you want to do rather than you go with the flow. That means you go with what the mind wants you to do. That's what go with the flow means. People say, oh, no, I go with the flow. So does dead fish. If you see dead fish, they're dead, they're floating, and the river is going and they're going with the flow. But those who have a thought process, live fish, sometimes go against the flow, like salmon. It goes against the flow because it's alive. It knows, I don't want to go this direction. I want to have babies. I want to have baby fish that is in that direction. So I'll go against the flow. So as entrepreneurs, we take decisions that's against the flow. Everybody is saying, go get that government job. We're like, no, I have my dream. I have my mission. I want to build something different. That's a destination I want to go. And for that, we need our mind to stay with us. Otherwise, friends, family, society, everybody's like, you think you're going to be Ambani? You think this will happen? You think that will happen? Oh, you will fail. And we have to keep hearing that and keep listening to Bhagavad Gita. So another part of mind control is knowing what to take, what not to take. There's all this knowledge that is given by our news channels, right? If we listen to all of that, we'll be depressed. Literally, there are people who are scared to do anything after watching detective movies, after watching news channels. They think the outside world is all about raping, looting, accidents, deaths, wars, cyber attacks, right? Everything else. It's not so bad. But that's how news channels get commercials. That's how you watch TV. When they scare you and give you anxiety, you're like, oh my God, let me see what's going on, how I'm going to die, right? Uncontrolled mind. So it is important to filter out, what do I accept, what knowledge do I not accept, who do I accept it from, who do I not accept it from. If there's no control over the mind, then all knowledge comes in. Movie, Amitabh Bachchan, Arnab Goswami, Barkha Dutt, these people become who tells us what to do, what not to do, right? And then we're like, oh, okay, must be true. So it's important to think on our own feet. That means first we need mind control. First we need to know what to say no to and what to say yes to. How do we know? It's based on the principles that are given in the Bhagavad Gita. So there's a question, it seems. Shupradip, what is boredom? And often we feel that we are bored and eventually we take some instant decision to get out of this boredom. How can we deal with this? What is boredom? Well, come on. You must be knowing what is boredom. When you have nothing to do and you feel like there's something you want to do or you want to change, right? You're tired of reading. So you want to go for a walk. Tired of walking, now you want to go watch something. So it's the mind, basically. So boredom means the mind being a monkey. Mind is saying, I don't like this. I want to do that. Now imagine this. You're in a job. And this happens to me so many times. Somebody's working at Paytm. Her uncle is writing to me, sir, my my relative is in Paytm and she's working for 7 months, but she's not learning enough. It's not challenging enough. Can you help her find another job? I'm like, first of all, we are in the middle of a pandemic where people are not even hiring. The fact that she has a good job at a Paytm-like company, which is a big company, you should be grateful. Oh, she's not feeling challenged enough. I'm like, hey, 7 months. It's a honeymoon period. They're giving her time to get acquainted with work. She's never worked in her life, At least stay for 3 years and then complain about not challenging enough, not learning enough. What you going to do? Move from one company to another every 6 months? And that's what happens, by the way. A lot of times this happens. People get tired. Oh, same thing, boredom. Oh, same thing every day. I want to do startup. Startup is easier than a job. Oh, welcome to my world. Please. Startup is 10 times more harder than your job. Right? So the point is, people get very easily bored, and the mind is telling flicker, change this, change that. Like we change channels. Life is also like that. We are changing channels. And then suddenly we realize, oh God, I'm 30 years old and I have no skills. I've never done anything consistently. I've learned little bit of this, little bit of that, little bit of this. I'm jack of all trades. What do I do? Oh, yes, let me become a life coach, motivational speaker. Right? Happens all the time. I'm like, whenever you say motivational speaker, go to the LinkedIn, you'll find they've not survived anywhere for more than 1 year. And then they finally gave up on that, and they're like, okay, I'm going to tell people what to do. And there are enough idiots who are out there who are like, they're going to listen what you're going to tell them to do. Although you couldn't figure out your own life, you're going to tell people how to figure out their life because you've read some Tony Robbins and whatnot. So, so my suggestion is, those of you who want to preach Bhagavad Gita and share the knowledge of Gita, please, here is a secret that I'm going to tell you. This is the only way this will work. When you apply this knowledge in your life and you feel, aha, this is how it works, that's when Gyan becomes Vigyan. Knowledge becomes realized knowledge. That aha means now the knowledge has become concrete. Only speak from realized knowledge. Then you will see you'll have impact on people's lives. If you speak from something you don't understand yourself, it will not have an impact on the consciousness of the person. Right? So it's important that you first apply it in your life. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Bharat Bhumite Janma Hoilo Jar, Janma Sarthak Kori Karo Paropakar. That those who are born in India, Bharat Bhumi, right? The great land of India, first make your life perfect by studying the Vedic scriptures. Then give this knowledge to others. First become perfect yourself, then give it. Don't rush into just, okay, I learned one verse, I'm going to go tell everybody, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. Oh, you drink alcohol, you must be such a sinner. Oh, look at me, I'm so pure. Huh. Yeah, right. Right. So first we have to be, whatever we can follow, whatever progress we make, from that vantage point, we assist others. We don't tell them what to do from a pedestal. We walk together with people to show them, here is Krishna. Here's an alternative. If you want, you can accept it. If not, that's fine. But at least know there is an alternative. There's an alternative to a depressed life of, escape. People think spiritualists are escapists. But actually, guess what? Materialists escape with alcohol intoxication and this and that. They're trying to forget their terrible life. Happy hour, apparently. Right? What's happening there? You're escaping the reality. What's Arjun doing? Wanting to escape the reality. Krishna is saying, no, stand here and fight. You can't escape. That's not what Kshatriyas do. Here's a challenge, and you're going to fight. But fight with knowledge, with your mind connected to me, with your intelligence connected to me, with your senses connected to me. Fight with that understanding. Otherwise, it's just emotional battle. But when your mind intelligence is ready, any war, right? Whether it's negotiating a deal in a business or anything, you will, if your mind and intelligence are connected to Krishna, you'll be able to think properly, think of all the aspects, and create a win-win situation. Otherwise, it's going to be just a banter. I am right versus you're right. They say I'm right, I'll say I'm right, and nobody wins, right? No conclusion. And then somebody else comes in as a lawyer, and they make all the money, and both of us get poor. That's how it works. I have seen so many times. Lawyers get rich, and the people fighting the lawsuit are getting poor. Pooja Gupta, kindly explain the difference between man and chitta. So mind, there are subtle differences in Sanskrit. Man, as I understand, is mind, and chitta is consciousness. So the difference between mind and consciousness is, mind is where the desires are happening. It'd be nice to have this. It'd be nice to have that. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. Thoughts, desires, all of that is happening, influenced by sattvic, rajasic, tamasic gunas. Consciousness or chitta is the awareness. I exist. I am. I experience happiness. I experience the sense of I that doesn't change, right? The body changes from childhood to old age. The body keeps changing. But the sense of I, that is chitta, that is consciousness, that is soul. That is something that artificial intelligence cannot have. Artificial intelligence is told, programmed to act in a certain way. It can do deep learning, but it cannot feel or experience things. It can, on basis of logic, it can do logical things. It can even do, amazing things that are not being taught. Fantastic, but it cannot feel. It cannot experience things. And that feeling and experience and happiness and joy and sorrow, anxiety, that is what a conscious being can do. So Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita, para prakriti, apara prakriti. Superior nature, inferior nature. Para prakriti is us, superior nature, because we are conscious. The consciousness makes us superior. And apara prakriti, inferior nature. Chair, table, whatever, wood, etc. Sai Siddharth, how to be positive always? How can we maintain our mind in a positive state without getting into negative areas? It's not human to be always positive. Negativity is part of life. Krishna is saying in chapter 2, text 14, Matra sparshastu kantya shita ushna sukha dukkada agama apaino anitya tam siddhasvat bharata. That matra sparshastu kantya, sparsha means contact. Matra, as soon as there's contact of the senses with the sense objects. Eye contacts something to see. Taste, tongue contacts something to taste. Skin contacts something to touch. There are two outcomes, happiness or distress, right? Somebody made a nice cake and forgot to put sugar in there. There's a lot of anticipation. This cake is going to be very tasty. Comes out of the oven, offered to Krishna. Then you're like, oh, it's going to be so good. And you taste it, there's no sugar, right? Taste. It comes in contact with your tongue and you're expecting happiness, but there's no happiness because there's no sugar. Like, no, it must be wrong. Let me try another cake. Oh, there's no sugar. Distress. So there's two options, happiness or distress. There's always, and that is how material life is, right? You go for a interview, two options. You get accepted or rejected. Happiness, distress. And Krishna is saying, Shita Ushna Sukha Dukha. Like heat and cold. Summer season, winter season. It's changing. After winter comes summer. After summer comes winter. That's like Sukha Dukha. Happiness and distress. After happiness, distress will come. With distress, happiness will come. Keeps changing. What doesn't change is my relationship with you. So Krishna is saying it is bound to be positive, negative. So how can we change that? We can change that by going to spiritual world. That's the whole ultimate destination, right? So there it is Vaikuntha, no miseries. Vaikuntha, no miseries. That's how the word even means. So the point is, in this world, you can never be always positive, right? Arjun heard the entire Bhagavad Gita. He lost his son, Abhimanyu, in the battle of Kurukshetra. And he was like, I'm going to commit suicide if I'm not able to kill his killer. Krishna made the arrangement so he could, take that revenge. But the point is, Arjuna was in depression. Even after hearing the Bhagavad Gita from the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna himself. What to speak of us? So don't put yourself up in that kind of unnatural place where you like, why am I negative? Why am I feeling this? Be kind to yourself. Like, you know what? I'm feeling negative. And I deserve to have some free time for myself. Let me listen to some good music. Let me read something nice. Let me call a friend who inspires me. Let me watch YouTube for a little bit. Fine, no problem. Give yourself time to heal. Give yourself time to, uplift from a negative situation. It is only natural to be in negative. But don't be there for too long. Slowly uplift yourself. Does it make sense, Sai? Bitan. Connecting to Krishna and connecting to verses of Gita are same, Prabhu? If through the verses of Gita you're able to connect with Krishna, yes. I send you a WhatsApp message. Do you connect to me through that WhatsApp message? Depends. If you understand that this message is coming from me, then yes, you connect with me. If you see this message as just a random message, then you don't connect with me. So if you see this Bhagavad Gita, the message from Krishna as a personal letter to you, then yes, you connect to Krishna with these verses. If you see these verses as somebody's imagination, some sage who was bored in the forest started writing the Bhagavad Gita, then that's what it is. So it depends how you see it. Okay, all right. Mriganka Bhattacharya, sir, please talk on Vedic lifestyle. Please be specific in your question. I can talk about Vedic lifestyle for hours and hours and hours, but you have to be a little specific exactly what part of Vedic life you want me to talk about. Until you ask that question, I'm going to move on to the next verse. Okay, actually, no, let me go back to the purport. The word Atma denotes body, mind, and soul, depending upon the different circumstances. So it's important to understand that in Sanskrit, there are certain words can have a different meaning based on the context. So a lot of times people get very scholarly and they take the Sanskrit literally and go, breaking it down into pieces. And that's a trap. That doesn't always work. Like Atma generally means soul. But here, in this context, Atma means the mind. Krishna is referring it to as the mind. So there are words like for deer. Certain cases it means deer, in certain cases it means something else, right? So the word Atma denotes body, mind, and soul, depending upon the different circumstances. In yoga system, the mind and the conditioned soul are especially important. Since the mind is the central point of yoga practice, Atma refers here to the mind. The purpose of yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from the attachment to sense objects. It is stressed herein that the mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of nescience. In material existence, one is subjected to the influence of the mind and the senses. In fact, the pure soul is entangled in the material world because the mind is involved with false ego, which desires to lord it over material nature. Therefore, the mind should be trained so that it will not be attracted to the glitter of material nature. And in this way, the conditioned soul may be saved. Have you seen those plants that are very beautiful looking and they eat insects? Right? That's exactly what's happening. Looking at the nice reddish inside, it's kind of meaty, it has some wet stuff. The insect thinks, oh, that's nectar. I'm going to eat that. And the insect nicely crawls in and the plant closes. And then it basically kills that insect and takes its nutrition. So similarly, we also go for the glittery, glamorous life. Now, I'm not saying don't have a glamorous life. Don't get me wrong. Some of us here do live quite a glamorous life, and that's okay. But don't get enamored by it, right? That's the important part. You can be an influencer. You can be a powerful speaker. You can be a powerful entrepreneur. But don't get enamored or entangled by it. Don't fall for it. Know that it can all change. Today you're making profit, tomorrow you're making losses. Today you have people saying you're awesome, tomorrow they'll be spitting on your face. And they're both part of the game. Krishna is saying just like summer and winter, these things change. So you should not become too happy when things are going well. You should not become too sad when things are not going too well. Because in both cases, when you're too happy, your mind is out of control, right? And you're partying and you're like, nothing can go wrong. And suddenly your guards are down and things do go wrong as a result of that. Just to give you an example, what's his name? Vijay Mallya. Literally his employees at Kingfisher were committing suicide and he decided to throw a grand party for his 60th birthday. Literally, it was so grand that people got so upset, and that was the beginning of his fall. If he had laid low, every company makes losses. Every company goes through hard times. Anil Ambani is going through hard time, but he's able to somehow, he's figuring his way out. But he's not, at least publicly, throwing a party. But this fellow, Vijay Mallya, threw such a massive party with Hollywood stars, and it was just crazy when he's not able to pay his employees. And that went against him and pretty much was where his destruction began. So similarly, what happens when you're too happy, you forget, you put your guards down, and your recovery, you don't realize things can go wrong any moment. And when you're too sad, when you're so depressed, again, you're so much in your brain is overwhelmed that you cannot think to get out of the situation. So it's always important for us to maintain stability, right? Yes, there'll be negatives and positives, but we slowly but quickly come out of it with Krishna as our shelter, with knowing the scriptures that this is expected, this is how the world works, that good things, bad things, they are just part of life. It's changing. And with that understanding, we keep moving forward. We take guidance, we take external help. It's important. On our own, the mind is inside us. So if the mind is the worst enemy, if the uncontrolled mind is the worst enemy, how do you work with the worst enemy when it's inside you? You need somebody from outside to tell you, here is something that you're doing wrong. You're acting too rash. You're making a whimsical decision. You're gambling. You're overcome by so much pride that you cannot see that you're falling for the ditch, etc., etc. Right? Somebody has to tell us, and that's the mentor or a guru. Like, hey, you're walking into the ditch, right? Like in case, so in Bengali we say ghar shotru bibhishan, which is in Hindi, I don't know what you guys say, but it's another way of saying that Vibhishan, who was Ravana's brother, he's called in bad names, that he was like a enemy. Wasn't not true from a devotional angle. Vibhishan was a great man. He told his brother, do you know who you are going against? This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is Lord Ram. He's not a human being. My dear Ravan, let Sita go. You have had so many wonderful women in your life. You have a beautiful wife, Mandodari. Let Sita go. It's not worth fighting. He will crush you. If Hanuman can destroy the entire Lanka, imagine what his Lord can do. And he's coming and he's willing to give you a chance. If you surrender, he'll go back. Just give back his wife. And out of arrogance, Ravan couldn't hear that. In fact, he said, if you were not my brother, I would have killed you. So immediately leave. I don't want to see your face. Get out. Vibhishan came to Lord Ram. He said, I surrender to you. If you want to kill me, you can kill me. But I understand you're Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am surrendered to your lotus feet. Please accept me. And all the Hanuman and everybody is like, I'm not so sure. He is Ravana's brother. Maybe he's a spy. Maybe he's come to know about our secrets and then, pass on that message. Lord Ram said, doesn't matter. Any living entity who comes and surrenders to me, I give them shelter and I take care of them forever. That is my principle. So the fact that he has come, he asked for shelter, doesn't matter he's Ravan's brother, doesn't matter if he tries to spy or anything like that. But he asked Hanuman, what do you think? Hanuman said, we should give him shelter. So Lord Ram said, okay, here you are. Welcome to the party. Right? So Vibhishan actually was a great man. But this Ravan was so arrogant and so lusty to enjoy somebody else's wife that he couldn't hear good advice. And thus, his uncontrolled mind, uncontrolled lust led him to his demise. Otherwise, he could have enjoyed for thousands of years. Anyway, so there are 3 questions. Let me quickly address those. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Please talk about walking, sleeping, time sense. Pitan, thank you. Okay. Akshat is saying, if we surrender to Krishna, then we have knowledge of Vedas, Puranas, etc. Is that a statement or a question? I'm not sure, Akshat, if you're asking me or you're telling me. So the knowledge allows you to surrender to Krishna, and surrender to Krishna allows you to accept the knowledge. It goes both ways, right? So you need to have, like in chapter 2, when Arjun, whole of chapter 1, Arjun is telling Krishna as an equal, right? This is why I don't want to fight. These are the 5 reasons. This is what's going to be. So it's kind of like when we give gyan to our friends, like, oh, aisa nahi karna chahiye. You shouldn't do it like this. Do it like this. Krishna was listening as a friend. But then Arjun realized, I don't have what it takes to deal with the situation. Then he says, my dear Krishna, from friendship, become my master, become my teacher, and tell me what is best for me. So he takes a lower position and gives Krishna a higher position. Only then Krishna opens his mouth and starts the Bhagavad Gita. Right? So it's important that we surrender, that is surrender, right? That I accept that you have higher knowledge. Kindly tell me what is good for me. Unlike some students try to be like, let me test the teacher. Do you know this? Do you know that? And out of syllabus questions. But there are students who are like, I want to know. I don't know. And I want to know. And hence I'm here. And that is surrender. So when you surrender, you're able to accept the knowledge much more clearly. And when you accept the knowledge, you're able to surrender even better. And thus accept more knowledge clearly. So they keep going back and forth, hand in hand. Right? That way, the more, I'm sure you have seen the teachers that you really like, you understand better from them. What's the teachers you don't like? No matter what they say in class, it doesn't just go into you. The surrender isn't there.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Actually, I was asking when we surrender to Krishna, so we have to read Vedic Puranas, everything that is not required, no? So we can only surrender to Krishna and pray to Krishna. That's it. That is what I was asking about.
And I answered that question. And I'll answer it again. It is important to read the Vedic scriptures. Why? Because you see so many people, when they go to the temple, they're crying, tears in their eyes. When they get out of the temple, what do? There's no practical application because there's no philosophy. We call this Philosophy Friday. Why? Because philosophy is very important. Without knowledge, how do you know who is God? How do you know how to surrender? Even take a white flag and you say, I surrender. Is that how surrender works? No. So philosophy is absolutely necessary. That doesn't mean you have to read the entire Vedic literatures. That's impossible to do because anyway it's been burnt by the foreign invaders. So what do? That's why Bhagavad Gita was spoken right before Kali Yuga for us. Srimad Bhagavatam, just for us. So, this part of the Vedas is pure bhakti, pure knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything else is ghuma phirake, it will talk about bhakti, but it will go, okay, you do this yagya, do this ritual, do this demigod, and then you come to, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. But in these two scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, are directly talking about surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So that's what we need to know that. We need to know the principles. Otherwise, it'll be sentimental. And we'll become religious fanatics. Hindu, Muslim, all that stuff happens. Why? Because neither the Hindu nor the Muslim have read their scriptures. That's why they fight. Now you look at a well-learned Maulvi and a well-learned Hindu Pandit, there is no fight. Because we know, name of Krishna is also Allah. Almighty is the name of Krishna, right? Jagannath, Jagaternath. Allah doesn't mean different. It's the same person, same entity, same God. For those who don't know, my daddy better than your daddy. It's the only way to God. That is, all that problems happen. So the point is that's because philosophy is lacking. I have in my life in the US, I have gone through so many attacks from Christians and Muslims where they try to show me how Hinduism is, completely irrelevant. Hinduism, and because they have won battles before with Hindus, they thought they could win with me. Not a single battle lost. Let me tell you, not being proud, but it's the glory of the Bhagavad Gita. Because of this understanding, when they challenge me, oh, you have many gods. How can that be? I'm like, no, we have one God. Bhagavad Gita says, what? Aren't you polytheistic? No, we are monotheistic. Oh, and then they get confused. Okay, this is taken aback. And I can quote verse after verse. You tell me where it says polytheistic. Well, I thought Hindus believe in many gods. I'm like, no, that's not the case. And then comes one after another question. But Jesus Christ says there's only way to God and no other way. I'm like, yeah, Jesus Christ is accepted as an acharya in our sampradaya. And it's right. It is, he's a guru. And access to God is through a guru. And that principle is valid. But Jesus Christ is not the only way to God. There are other acharyas around the world who are there, who are gurus and who are personalities who give you access to God, who give you knowledge of God, and thereby you can access God. So, there have been many, many battles. I've never lost one battle. Why? Because of philosophy. Otherwise, what happens? Oh, in my heart, I know Krishna is God, but I don't know anything else. And before you know, people will become an atheist, because there's some scientifically minded people will come and tell you, oh, you've come from monkeys and there is this reaction and there is da 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 da. Like, that makes sense. There must be no God. It's all Big Bang theory. Okay, there is no God. Because one side there's logic and the other side there is just tears. And what do you go for? You go for where there's logic. One of my sisters actually became an atheist. She came to do PhD in the US. And I'm like, she used to come for all the pujas at her house and everything. And suddenly she's like an atheist. I'm like, what happened? Well, like, oh, all my doctor friends, PhD friends, they're like, they caught me one day and they, defeated me completely. And I realized there is no God. I cannot actually stand up to their logic. So I have decided to be an atheist. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's what happens when you don't know philosophy. So you need to know the philosophy. And that's why we are here studying this. Because unless we know this, we can be easily, our faith can be easily bent and broken. And before we know, we become atheists. Does it make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Prabhupada said we should know our scriptures, so the lawyer knows the law book. When we speak, we should be able to be like, in this chapter, in this verse, Krishna says this. Now, I'm not saying you have to memorize it like crazy, but as you keep listening, as you see, I repeat a lot. There's a reason behind this technique of teaching, because through my repetition, you don't have to read many, many times. You will remember, right? I repeat verses, and I know many of you memorize those verses, and it's important. That's how I learned. I heard Prabhupada over and over again, and Prabhupada keeps repeating certain verses. And through that, we are able to remember those verses, and then when required, those verses become reality. When there's difficulty, those verses start playing in your head, right? Aham bija pradapitaha. Oh, okay, wow, Krishna is my seed-giving father. So this is all my inheritance. So how can I fail? Because Krishna is there. So even if I fail, Krishna will take me through that and he'll make me successful. That inspires me. Krishna is my father, right? So these verses might seem like verses, but they become reality whenever there's a need, or when there was a doubt, when there's an argument, right? That's where philosophy is so important. So philosophy and faith go hand in hand. It's like a train goes on two tracks, right? Similarly, philosophy and faith goes hand in hand. And chanting enhances our faith, and chanting allows our brain capacity to absorb more philosophy. When we know how to concentrate, then we can absorb knowledge. So we chant Hare Krishna and train the mind to focus on the sound vibration of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, right? On the sound vibration, in the now, in the present. We're training the mind to focus on the sound. Thereby, we're training our mind to be more focused, so to absorb more knowledge, more philosophy, and increase the capacity of the mind. That is like you go to the gym to build your body, you do meditation to build your mind, right? And you become a stronger mind, a more absorbent mind, a more powerful mind that can pull in information from here, there, here, synthesize it, and beautifully apply it in life. That's what it does, right? So chanting helps our faith as well as philosophy. And with faith and philosophy, we are neither. So without philosophy, the faith becomes fundamentalism, right? Because we don't know much, we just hold on to the emotions, sentimentalism. And without faith, philosophy becomes dry speculation. So there are many people who are gyanis who don't believe in God. They'll recite the Bhagavad Gita upside down, inside out, but they have no clue the essence of Gita. And that's a problem. All right. Let's see if there's any more questions. Okay, Shupradeep is saying, Prabhu, you told me to ask this in Philosophy Friday class. What is your purpose of life? My purpose? What must be our purpose of life? And how can we find out actual purpose of life in terms of spiritualism and materialism? So my purpose of life is to share the knowledge of Gita. And when I leave this planet, that there can be many souls, as many as possible, who also have access to Krishna consciousness, the joy of Krishna consciousness, the way I do. That's my goal in life. It's as many souls I can touch as possible. That's why I do Philosophy Friday. That's why I also do Kolkata Ventures and other things, because even through business, I'm able to meet people who otherwise wouldn't actually come to a philosophical discussion. But through business, I meet them. And when they see I have a different lifestyle, I don't drink, I don't eat meat, I have a different lifestyle. People, I meet people, and their inquisitive nature asks questions, and I'm able to talk about philosophy. So that's my goal, is as many people as possible sharing this knowledge. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Prithivite ashe jato nagaradi gram, sarvatra prachar hoibe mor naam," which means in every town and village of this world, my name shall be chanted, right? So Krishna's name will be chanted in every town and village of this world. So Lord Chaitanya has given us this instruction, and my goal is, in my capacity, whatever little bit I can do, I want to contribute to that, directly or indirectly. What must be our purpose of life? That's up to you. I cannot tell you what should be your purpose of life, but it'll be nice to have a spiritual purpose to your life, aligned with spreading the Hare Krishna movement through your activities, through your ambitions. But it'll be nice to align a spiritual goal along with your personal ambitions and other things. How can I find out actual purpose of life? Well, you're in the process of learning. As you learn, there will be a moment when you'll be feeling that aha moment. Yes, this is something I want to do perpetually. This is something that gives me tremendous happiness. This is something that is what I'm meant to do. I am a very shy individual, introvert, actually. I used to be more, but now I'm a little better. So when I go on stage and I speak, it's like, this is what I'm meant to do. This is something, that makes me happy. And more so when I speak about Krishna, that makes me feel like, this gives me so much happiness. Like after Philosophy Friday, I'm boiling, right? I'm like so happy. I'm not hungry, I'm not sleepy, I'm not stressed, I'm not depressed. I'm just happy, because this is something I'm meant to do. So you will also get that indication from Krishna, as well as from your guru or mentor, that this is, and then you realize, I want this to be the purpose of my life, right? It'll come to you. Be patient. DJ is asking, which edition of Gita to read, understand, and link Friday. It's, if you could go to vedabase.io, vedabasc.io. So that has the Bhagavad Gita as it is, which is coming through a chain of Guru Shishya Parampara. So if you read this Bhagavad Gita, actually, it gives the names of all the personalities who are coming directly from Krishna in the disciplic succession. I'm just pulling out the page. So that way, you know that what you are studying, right, from Krishna all the way, all the prominent acharyas are mentioned, all the way to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada is the one who wrote the Bhagavad Gita. Now, this is a US copy, so my, it looks a little different. The Indian versions are a little more prettier with Krishna's face on it. But the point is called Bhagavad Gita as it is. It's coming in the Guru Shishya Parampara all the way from Krishna to Srila Prabhupada and to us. And it's our duty to take it to the next generation without changing the essence, without changing the meaning, without changing anything, intact as it is, taking it forward. Okay, Naveen Jaiswal, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In today's time, lots of children are losing eyesight because of black fungus. How can we understand that this is God's plan? Please guide. This is not God's plan. Who told you this is God's plan? We have created a situation in Kali Yuga. It's all our plan. We don't follow the Vedic lifestyle. We don't eat the Vedic food. We don't have a Vedic situation. Today, we are taking sanitizers and sanitizing a hand. And when our grandmothers do the same thing with Ganga water, we have issues with that. Oh, she's so nitpicky, right? Although if we don't live near a Ganga, in the Vedic system, a Brahman is supposed to take a bath 3 times a day, right? We live a very sanitized life. We are very clean people. But guess where all that has gone? So it's not God's plan at all. It's our plan. And we have created this system. We cut down trees, we harm the environment, we create slaughterhouses, harm the animals, and we're reaping the benefit of that. This is our system. This is our governance. This is our doing. God has nothing to do with it. This is not God's plan. Please don't be fooled by it. And now you're going to say children. Children, we just did karma, so we're all born with our karma, unfortunately, in our past life, whatever we have done. And this life, whatever we are doing, is going to lead us to our next circumstances. So it's a law of karma acting. It's an automated process. Again, God has no role to play in it unless you invite God through prayers. Unless you invite God through prayers, God does not take part in your life. You are in your own system. You do good, good things happen. You do bad, bad things happen. They don't nullify each other. It's just a automated process that goes on, right? So law of karma. Lakshman, Prabhuji, why is this Maya Vyapt? Why? W-Y-A-P-T. I don't know what that means. What is the purpose of Supreme to have this whole universe and all? Well, creation, you're asking me, right? Why creation? Creation, because Krishna wants to enjoy. It's not, although he's Atmarama, he is fully self-satisfied, but Krishna wants to enjoy, and that means you can enjoy with somebody else. So at the beginning of creation, Lord Balaram and Radharani expanded from Krishna. And from Radharani, the Shakti, personalities came. From Lord Balaram, all the Vishnu Tattvas came, and etc., etc. Creation happened. The point is, every living entity, Krishna has a unique relationship with, right? And Krishna wants to have unique relationship and unique exchange. And just like we have friends on Facebook, right? We have all kinds of friends, nerdy friends, funny friends, loser friends, all kinds of friends. And we experience different moods with each kind of friend. Some friends inspire us, some friends make us laugh. So Krishna also likes to enjoy different relationships with different living entities. So he created all of us to have infinite relationships and enjoy. And we also have fun when we connect and we exchange with God and each other, right? So that's the whole point of creation. Now, material creation is for us. 2% of souls who are here are those who doesn't like God. They're like, I don't like it there. Everybody is with Krishna. I want to be God. I want to be the center of attention, and I want to have my own things. Krishna is like, okay, here you go. There is a material world where you can pretend, you can be in illusion that you are in charge, right? That's the illusion is required, because we are, by default, we are not in charge. God is in charge. But the Maya is to help us. It's like video game, right? Do you really want to drive a car and crash somebody and kill somebody with a gun? No. You play a video game. Why? Because it's a simulate. It simulates a certain situation that you fantasize. So this material world simulates a fantasy that we have, that we want to be God. And thus, the illusion, the Maya is there to make us kind of think. People are saying, oh, Mr. So-and-so, you're amazing. And we're like, I am God. I'm no less than God. Right? And we those who are intelligent, those who are knowledgeable in Bhagavad Gita, realize it can change any moment. Today they're saying Mr. So-and-so, tomorrow they're going to be like, you are such a loser, etc., etc. So the point is, that's illusion, is that so we don't have to be in illusion. Illusion is there to help us live our fantasy. Like video games are there to help us live our fantasy. I hope that answers your question. Prabhu, if we follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita, then everything we do doesn't come in our karma account. If you follow bhakti, that means Krishna is involved in your action. What you're eating, you're offering to Krishna. Krishna is involved, then yes, it's akarma. There's akarma, karma, and vikarma. Karma is actions in Vedic system. Akarma is actions in Krishna consciousness or bhakti actions. And vikarma is outside Vedic system. So heavy karma, like things that are absolutely anti-Vedic culture. So you're breaking the laws, basically. So Bhagavad Gita has everything. Bhagavad Gita has karma, akarma, and vikarma. Bhagavad Gita says, worship demigods in chapter 3. And then chapter 7, Krishna is saying, those who are lusty, they worship demigods. Worship me, right? So it's not Bhagavad Gita. You have to understand what is Krishna wanting to tell you. What is his heart? And that's bhakti. And he's saying, connect with me. I'm your father. Don't go through via media. Don't go through a middleman. You don't need a demigod middleman. Come to me directly, right? That's what Krishna is saying. So if you are in bhakti, you don't get reactions. But if you are in karma, gyan, ashtanga, all of those systems, you will get reactions. Thank you so much. Blissful session. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. I've taken a little too long. My apologies. 5 minutes extra. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Have a good night. See you soon.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.